What's up everyone, another day, another slay. So, Tears of the Kingdom. As expected, it's fucking phenomenal. Like, probably the best game to come out of this decade so far, at least for me. Josh, what about Elden Ring? What about Elden Ring? Elden Ring was good. Won't say anything further. Okay, come the fuck on. Can you kill bosses with dick missiles in Elden Ring? No, I didn't think so. So, for some reason, this little tablet game where you can kill bosses with dick missiles has managed to piss off a lot of PlayStation fanboys. And I mean, a lot. How did this tablet game for children running at 30 FPS on 2015 hardware surpass all our exclusives? Because it's actually fun. There is no experience that compares to eating a 25 milligram edible and playing Tears of the Kingdom until the sun comes up. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved God of War Ragnarok. It was easily my favorite game of last year, and it's probably the best written game I've seen in the last 10 years. And as someone who loves to analyze storytelling and like anything, that's a huge deal for me, but that's as far as it goes. The gameplay is nothing to write home about. The new God of War games are like the Last of Us games. You take the cutscenes out and there's pretty much nothing, while with Tears of the Kingdom, it's pretty much the exact opposite of that. The gameplay is center stage here, and it's genuinely fun as fuck, and one of the most addicting games I have ever played. However, the story is quite possibly the worst Zelda story I have seen in one of these games. Like, I won't get into spoilers, but yeah, it's really bad. It takes itself way too seriously, and it just makes it even worse. But that's for a different video, or a whole 2-hour long analysis on this game, which I may or may not make. Point is, the game is fucking fantastic. If you have not played this game, go play it right fucking now. If you don't like the $70 price tag, go find another way to get it, because there are very easy ways to do that. I don't think I've been hiding it that much, but I'm a pretty big Nintendo fanboy. I bought the Skyward Sword remaster for full price when it came out. I buy the amiibos that are pretty much useless in the games they're in, and I paid $70 for this shit, and I do not regret any of those purchases whatsoever. And if the goddamn special edition Pro Controller comes back in stock, you already know I'll be buying that shit, because goddamn, this is a good ass game. But yeah, as I was saying, PlayStation fanboys are mad because this game, despite its genuinely terrible writing, is pretty much better than anything PlayStation has put out, like, ever. And then we have Supernova trying to downplay this shit, which I found to be some of the funniest shit I have seen all week. So we're gonna check out his stream where he talks about the game, because it's awful. Enough talking, and let's see what YouTube has shout out today.
What is happening, Nova Nation, on this glorious Titty Tuesday or Taco Tuesday or whatever part of the female body you'd like to celebrate?
Tacos aren't part of the female body, you fat fuck.
As far as the conversation regarding $70 for this game goes, yeah, that's one that I think is that's an interesting conversation to have, because I don't really see how this game should have been worth $70. Is there?
Alright, let me make one thing crystal fucking clear. Tears of the Kingdom should not be $70. No game should be. I mean, shit, Tears of the Kingdom isn't even a next-gen game, so there is quite literally no excuse here. But then again, neither is most of the shit that's come out on PS5 or Series X that's priced at $70 either. Horizon Forbidden West, it's on the PS4, and it's not a next-gen game. God of War Ragnarok, same shit. Demon Souls and The Last of Us Part 1, those are literally fucking remasters of PS3 games. They have by far the least of an excuse to be priced at $70. Yet you somehow managed to suck the cock of almost all of those games, except for The Last of Us Part 1 for some reason, which I will give credit where credit is due, and I haven't seen him talk about Demon Souls, so maybe he doesn't support that either, but I don't really know. But yet again, at least with God of War and Horizon Forbidden West, you never once bring up how those games are $70 on PS5 and not next-gen games in either of your reviews. And yes, before someone brings up that I mentioned Horizon is $70 on the PS5, because Sony quite literally tried scamming casuals with that release to try to milk an extra $10 out of people, despite the upgrade from the PS4 to PS5 version being free. So it just seems to me like, oh, $70 is bad when it comes to Nintendo, which again, you're not wrong there, but it's not even worth mentioning in your review when it comes to God of War and Horizon. Okay, then go off. And you could bring up the fact that God of War and Horizon's next-gen versions run way better than the last-gen versions, and for that reason, they have an excuse to be $70, which I have to ask, what the fuck? You should not have to pay extra for the games you already bought on the next-gen console you already bought to be able to play those games with the next-gen frame rates and resolution. That's like if Resident Evil 4 Remake came out and tried charging me an extra $10 to unlock the frame rate and make the game run at 165 Hz with ray tracing on. That's just fucking bullshit.
More content there, sure, but does just having more content make it a $70 game? That's a hard question, right? What makes a $70 game a $70 game? Is it the amount of content? Is it the length of the game?
There is no game that should be charging $70. Like, there physically isn't. It doesn't matter if it's the best fucking game ever made, which, to be honest, Tears of the Kingdom is well on its way to surpass Breath of the Wild for being my favorite game ever. There is no excuse. I only bought Tears because, like I said, I'm a self-proclaimed Nintendo fanboy.
Listen, I've been vocal about how I feel Breath of the Wild is one of the most overrated games ever, right? Not saying it's a bad game. I've sunk fucking probably over 100 hours in Breath of the Wild. Beat Breath of the Wild, loved Breath of the Wild. But was it this fucking second coming of Christ game that everyone said it was? No fucking way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it had its flaws. The dungeons are complete shit. The story, while it has some really good elements, for the most part is just a complete mess. The world feels dead, and there are a lot of shrines that just are straight up copy and paste. But to say that the game isn't genuinely fucking revolutionary for the open world genre is a complete fucking lie. I'm sorry. Like, there are now 3 open world games that just sit at the top miles above every other open world game, and those games are Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, and now Tears of the Kingdom, because they focus so much more on having a world with actual interesting shit to do rather than just filling a map with markers and telling the player where all the secrets are. They have shit that you actually have to find looking around the world rather than just telling you. It actually blows my mind that as copy and paste as the open world genre is, that more games haven't tried copying Breath of the Wild's world design.
I thought that Breath of the Wild overall was an open world that was not as beautiful as everyone said it was.
Because it has an art style. Like, I would take Breath of the Wild's world style, where it goes for this cel-shaded, almost anime style, and it's got all these different regions of the map that have their own distinct look to them, over something like base Spider-Man PS4's world, where it tries to be ultra realistic, and in the end, while objectively looking way more realistic than Breath of the Wild, just isn't that interesting to look at in comparison. I will be fair though, PlayStation has definitely the best of both worlds when it comes to art style and realism when it comes to the Horizon series. Say what you will about the writing on those games or how they're another Ubisoft open world game, those games look absolutely fucking gorgeous and are just teeming with life. Like, the Horizon games are easily the best looking games that are out right now. There is no question about that.
Was mostly devoid of life. I also felt that combat and controls were clunky. I enjoyed doing the dungeons, or the shrines as they're called in Breath of the Wild. And that's really where most of my fun came. When I played Breath of the Wild, most of my fun came from the exploration and the puzzles and the shrines. The open world and the combat for me was just, you know, not where the game really shines.
So you say the majority of your fun in Breath of the Wild came from the exploration, but the open world was mid? The fuck? How does that even make sense? Do you mean like visually it looks mid? Well, I guess that's fair. I mean, again, in comparison to the Horizon games, which he goes on to compare Breath of the Wild's world a lot to in this stream, yeah, those open worlds and their style absolutely shit on Breath of the Wild. It is not even comparable. But wouldn't you mean like the style or graphics of the game rather than the open world itself? I don't even know, because I can't figure out what the hell he's talking about here. And then also he talks about the controls in combat being clunky and shit, which, I don't know, for me, it really wasn't. I think it controls fine. I get maybe a couple people will find that it's weird that X is the jump button, but you can switch that shit around if you don't like it. For Tears of the Kingdom, I also get that in like the first 2 hours or so, the Ultra Hand ability controls really weird. But once you play the game for longer than those 2 hours and really started getting into the shrines, where they really make you utilize Ultra Hand and all your other abilities, you get used to it. And then he talks about the combat, which no, just straight up no. For one, Zelda has never once been about its combat. This isn't Doom, this isn't Devil May Cry, it's Zelda. It's always been way more focused on puzzle solving and exploration. And even still, Breath of the Wild and now especially Tears of the Kingdom have by far the best combat systems in any Zelda game. They added the whole parry and dodge system, you can use the game's physics engine to your advantage, and now with Tears of the Kingdom, you have all that shit that was good in Breath of the Wild's combat, along with now being able to fire dick missiles at people. It's fucking great.
Tears of the Kingdom, you know, even though they've added this new fuse system and overhand and these new abilities, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Tears of the Kingdom is not this new revolutionary amazing thing. It is really just Breath of the Wild with some added abilities.
Well, no fucking shit.
It really is. And yes, they added a lot of, you know, new map because you have the entire underground and then you have the Sky Islands. But even the Sky Islands, there's a lot less Sky Islands than you probably would have thought from all the marketing material and shit like that. And honestly, a lot of the islands, there ain't shit on them.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about here, because I have played like 40 hours of this game already in the last week, and I am yet to find a sky island without something interesting to do on them. I mean, sure, there's the ones that are just like a meter in diameter, but that's because they're a fucking platform for you to use to recharge your stamina to get to the next big sky island. Maybe you're talking about how there's only shrines and some Zonai stuff on them, which I guess if you don't find the shrines interesting, that could be a problem for you, but you just said one of the best parts of Breath of the Wild was its shrines, so I don't know why it's the problem here. I mean, maybe you want something more than just a shrine or a Korok on there, which, yeah, it would be cool if there were like entire optional dungeons completely separate from the main storyline, like how I'm pretty sure they do in Elden Ring up in the sky, but obviously in Elden Ring they don't have them in the sky. But the shrines do kind of function as those optional dungeons. Maybe you want like a town up there, which I mean, yeah, that would be cool, but I don't really know how they can make that canonically make sense in the game, because they're literally in the fucking sky and Link is the only one with the power to get all the way up there. At least that's what I've seen so far, but you know what? Fine. There should be way more sky islands in the game from how Nintendo's been marketing this shit. Like, there's only 10% of Breath of the Wild's map, and it should be at least like 30 at minimum. And a couple towns being up there could be really cool. Like, what if there was a town made up entirely of the Zonai constructs? That could be fucking awesome. But to say there literally isn't shit to do on them is just a fucking lie.
You know, there's secrets and shit hidden on some, which is cool when you find them or when you find puzzles and shit. But there's a lot of just shit floating around that there's nothing on. And the underground map is, I think, almost the size of the regular map, so that's cool, but it's mostly fucking lava.
Mostly lava? I have to guess he's talking about the gloom, which, that shit is not hard to avoid. Like, I have been doing a shit ton of exploration in the depths, kind of following out the Master Koga storyline, which, by the way, I haven't seen that many people talking about how fucking awesome the depths are with all the gameplay mechanics they introduce. It is so fucking cool. Like, it's all completely in the dark, right? And you have to throw down these seeds to light up your path to know where the fuck you're going. But then when you're like swimming across a lake or something towards your destination, since it's dark, you don't know how long you're gonna have to be swimming for, and if you're gonna run out of stamina or not. Same with climbing walls down there. So the entire time you're just fucking holding the stick forward, maybe eating your stamina refresh food so you don't drown or fall. And it's one of the most anxiety-ridden experiences I have ever had in a fucking game. It is awesome. Not to mention how the gloom brings in this system where the damage your enemies deal to you is permanent until you find the next big light seeds, so getting hit matters even more. It's just so fucking good. The depths alone with its Master Koga storyline could be a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and honestly, I wouldn't be complaining at all. But hey, I'll be fair to him, from what I've seen from reviewers, not a lot of people have been doing much exploration in the depths outside of what's required for the main quest line, so he probably doesn't even know about all this shit.
What do you want from a sequel, right? Like, the sequel to Breath of the Wild should be more Breath of the Wild. Like, I hate when people give sequels shit. Like, you know, God of War Ragnarok will get fucking knocked because, you know, it's just more of God of War 2018. Well, no shit, fuckface. It's part 2 of that. That's like fucking watching Terminator 2 Judgment Day and being like, dude, what the fuck is this shit, bro? Arnold again?
Okay, so while I definitely agree with him on how sequels shouldn't be judged because they're similar to their predecessor, that analogy was like actual dog shit, because Terminator and Terminator 2 are such vastly different movies despite taking place in the same world. Like, the first Terminator is borderline a horror movie and actually tries to be scary. The second one goes full on action. A good comparison would be like a Marvel sequel probably, but like the point is, it's not uncommon for a sequel to be almost nothing like its predecessor. The Zelda series has even done this in the past with Majora's Mask. The game plays nothing like Ocarina of Time, and honest to god, Tears also plays very differently from Breath of the Wild. Like, Tears focuses way more on finding creative ways to do things, way more than Breath of the Wild, while Breath of the Wild just focused more on general exploration.
So yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is basically just Breath of the Wild with some new shit, but that's what sequels are supposed to fucking be.
Along with a complete fucking overhaul of the way puzzles are solved in this game. Like, it is not even comparable to Breath of the Wild.
Right? It's not a fucking reboot. It's a sequel. But again, that being said, dude, listen, it's a fun game. It's an awesome game. I've got easily over 30 hours in it. I'm enjoying the game. Loving it. Right? Unlike Redfall, where I literally had to fucking drag myself back to that game.
Why would you willingly finish Redfall? Like, you would have to pay me at least $1,000 for me to even try that shit.
The combat for me still clunky shit, right? Combat fucking sucks. Yeah, cool, you can fuse shit to your weapons. I don't give a fuck, right? I would much rather have weapons I find that don't fucking break, and I just find better weapons throughout the game, than, oh, I can fuse shit to my weapons to make them better, but they still fucking break. This weapon breaking bullshit, I'm sorry, still trash. They made it a little better because you can fuse shit to the weapons. It's still trash.
Finally, somebody talked about this shit. I have been meaning to talk about this for like 6 fucking years. So the weapon breaking system in Breath and Tears are definitely the most controversial aspects of these games, which honest to God, I never really got the hate for it. Yeah, weapons are like fucking toothpicks and they break after like 6 hits, especially in the early game, but honestly, I see weapons as more expendable resources and making you feel way more desperate when your weapon breaks in the middle of combat. Cause with Breath and Tears, these are not Zelda games. They are as close to the Zelda formula as the 2005 Resident Evil 4 is to the original trilogy. They might as well just be their own spin-off series. Breath and Tears are survival games, and pretty much every survival game has weapons that break. They break a lot more in Breath and Tears when compared to other survival games, but that's because there's a lot more weapons out in the world, and it's insanely easy to replace the weapons. Like, I see complaining about weapons breaking in Breath and Tears like complaining about low ammo in the horror-focused Resident Evil games. That's like part of the whole appeal of them. If you had more ammo in those Resident Evil games, it would take away the sense of powerlessness you have in them, and one of the biggest reasons why those games are scary in the first place. Just like with Breath and Tears, if the weapons didn't break as fast as they did, it would take out one of the biggest reasons for exploration in these games by not constantly needing new weapons, and it would just straight up break the combat system.
Steering the horses, if you're like galloping, steering the horses still a pain in the ass. Also, I don't understand what this fucking game, even with the last game, what these Zelda games obsession with boarding your horses are, because they're these fucking, what the hell are they called? They're basically like stables in these Zelda games, all right? And you keep your horse at the stable, all right? And if you want to take your horse out, you go to the stable and you grab your horse. And then you can ride your horse anywhere you want, and then you hop off your horse, and then, you know, if your horse is close to you, you can whistle for your horse and your horse will come back. But if you do not put that horse back in the stable, and I mean grab your horse, ride him back to the stable, and board him, if you fast travel to another part of the map, and then you want your horse, and you want to go to the stable to grab it, they're going to be like, sorry, buddy. We don't have your horse.
Look, here's the thing.
Fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
What the fuck are you talking about? This shit is not in the game. Well, maybe it is in Breath of the Wild's hard mode because I haven't played that, but I know for a fact, because I fucking tested it while making this video, you do not need to bring your horse back to the stable to make it go across the map. You can talk to the stable guy and you can ask him to bring your horse and he'll say that they're going to get it. And then it goes to black and the horse is there at the stable. Have you used the horses at all?
Also, a lot of these new abilities they've added kind of break the game in certain ways.
Yeah, that's the entire appeal of Breath and Tears. The physics engine is so detailed that there are a shit ton of ways to break the game, so if you're actually creative, you'll probably have a fucking blast with these games. And it adds to the way that these games are just fucking spiritual experiences when you're high. You're supposed to break the game in any way that you can. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but breaking the game using the abilities makes me feel so much smarter than any puzzle the developers could have put in the game could have done. Like, it feels like you outsmarted the developers when you break it, and then you can talk to your friends about how you broke the game and how they should do it too. And that's another thing with these games. The sense of community they bring is fucking awesome.
You're intended to fucking hop on these pallets that are sliding down the sand and then use your ability to reverse time and then basically ride the pallets back up in the opposite direction and then hop from stone to stone and pallet to pallet until you eventually get back to the shrine. So you can do that shit. Or I could just fucking grab a rocket, throw it on the ground, if I have a rocket in my inventory, throw it on the ground, fuse it to my shield, pull out my shield, shoot up fucking 600 feet in the sky, and then just glide my happy ass right to the shrine. Also, I don't recall in Breath of the Wild being able to get that high in the sky.
Yeah, you could do that. You could use the updraft thing with the peppers, which works surprisingly well. Or you could use Rivali's Gale, which was like one of the most overpowered abilities in that game, period.
It's the equivalent of the Far Cry towers. You fucking stand in this little thing and it shoots you up through a fucking tube into the sky. And you scan the entire environment with your little It's basically your switch. I forgot what they call it in the game, but it's basically a switch. And then you glide back to the ground, but you're so fucking high because this thing shoots you high enough to get to Sky Islands. You're so fucking high that you can glide a decent distance. So what I find is when I have things or places I need to go, instead of taking the time to walk on foot or ride my fucking retarded ass horse, what I'll just do is I will fast travel to the nearest one of these fucking things. I forget what they're called, but I'll fast travel to the nearest one, have it shoot me up in the sky, and then I'll glide as far as I can towards whatever the objective is. And I basically am bypassing 90% of the fucking map, right?
Yes, and again, that's what's so cool about these games. If you don't want to walk on the ground and see the world and just lie straight to your objective, you can do that. While with something like Spider-Man or Horizon or Red Dead or GTA, you're usually just encouraged to follow a direct path to your objective. Breath and Tears don't tell you shit. They just put a fucking marker down and go,
Missed the part where that's my problem.
and then bounce the fuck out. Half the time, they don't even give you a marker and you just straight up have to find it out in the world. Like, I remember playing Breath of the Wild for the first time. I straight up forgot there were fucking roads in this shit because I never used them. I was always climbing over shit, basically going in a straight line to the objective.
Release. You hold it and you gotta release, because if you hold it till your stamina's all the way out, oh, then he's tired. He's gotta hold on. He's gotta wait a second and catch his breath before you can sprint again. So it's this fucking stupid game of hold the button for a couple seconds, let go. Hold the button for a couple seconds, let go. Do that for fucking...
Okay, this has nothing to do with what he's talking about, but what the fuck are those textures on the ground? Are you playing this shit on like the fucking early access emulator that ran like ass from when the game got leaked that didn't even like render the depths? Cause that's the only time I've seen that texture before. Not like I pirated the game pre-launch or anything. Who the fuck do you think I am? I'm a well-trained, law-abiding teenager.
It's just easier. And you know, these new abilities, fuse and all this shit, great. You know, it's cool that we can make these contraptions, but you look at a lot of these people that are making shit in this game, and none of the shit they're doing has anything to do with the actual game.
Okay, and again, I've said it like a million times at this point. That's the whole appeal of this game. You can do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, there's no direct reason for you to make all these giant ass contraptions, but does there need to be? Like, the fact that it's optional honestly just makes doing it way more satisfying, because you know a lot of other people just haven't done it because they don't want to. Well, if in a mission or shrine they showed you step by step how to make one of these massive mechs that people have made, it wouldn't be nearly as fun to do compared to just figuring it out yourself.
Also, it feels out of place, man. Like, Zelda's high fantasy, and a glider is one thing, but cars and robots and fucking all this other weird shit, I understand it's like Zonite technology, and that's how they explain it, but it just feels out of place in a Legend of Zelda game. It just does.
Oh my fucking god, that has to be one of the dumbest takes I've heard on this game. It's not Zelda! Yes, that's exactly what these fucking games set out to do, dumbass. Be nothing like their predecessors. The last game in the DLC, it gave you a fucking motorcycle to drive around the map on. If you don't like how it's nothing like old school Zelda, then go replay the old school Zelda games. It's the Last of Us HBO shit all over again. Jesus Christ.
Like, imagine Lord of the Rings, right? Like, imagine if the dwarves all of a sudden fucking had this badass technology, and next thing you know, they're fighting battles not with swords, not with horses, not with fucking trebuchets, but with these fucking robots they built.
Why are you comparing this shit to Lord of the Rings? Oh my god, I'm gonna shoot myself. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense in Lord of the Rings because those movies have a consistent style. Zelda, on the other hand, has one of the most inconsistent styles in any game series I think I've seen. Almost like every other game has a style that is completely different from each other. Even the direct sequels like Majora's Mask and Ocarina, each game might as well be in their own different universes from how different these styles are. Like, what the hell is Zelda's style even? I mean, I think most people would think of like A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time as like the basic Zelda style, but even those games have vastly different styles. With like A Link to the Past Dark World, Ocarina doesn't have anything in that style of the Dark World.
Now let's talk about this fucking Metacritic, right? Because again, I'm enjoying the game, I'm having fun with the game, but I think that they are overlooking a lot of things with this game. Just like they did with the first game, right? They just overlook all kinds of shit. Because it's the Legend of Zelda. And I don't understand why, but They're gonna overlook the combat being fucking a pain in the ass. They're gonna overlook the performance issues. They're gonna overlook all the shit that any other game would have gotten bullshit for.
Again, combat you're just straight up wrong about. Yeah, it isn't like insanely in-depth. But neither is the new God of War games or Horizon, yet you still suck those games off on the daily. And God of War was previously a series that had a super heavy focus on combat, so it was even worse there. And then the performance shit. Yeah, 30 FPS for a 2023 game? Yeah, fucking unacceptable. However, you have to put into perspective what this game is running on. It is running on like 2015 hardware that was already outdated when it came out in 2017. This shit can barely run the original Resident Evil 4 from 2005 at 60 FPS. The fact that this game is running at all on here is a goddamn miracle. But like, you're not gonna dock points from something like Ocarina of Time because it only runs at 20 FPS on the N64. Like, that's fucking stupid, because the console it's running on physically cannot run that game better than that 20 FPS. Tears running like ass is a fault of Nintendo refusing to put out new hardware, not the game itself. Therefore, I don't really think the game should have points docked for it. 60 FPS isn't the standard on the Switch, while on something like the PS5 or Series X, it is. Redfall running at 30 FPS is fucking unacceptable, because the game looks like it was made in the fucking Fortnite creative mode on the so-called most powerful console on the market, yet it can't push out 60 FPS? The fuck? 60 FPS for Redfall would have been kind of embarrassing from how bad that game looked. This is a hot take that I'm gonna get shit for, but Tears of the Kingdom looks better than that game. I said it. Redfall should have been running at 120 FPS, no exceptions.
It's still one of these games where, your Link never speaks, and there'll be dialogue and cutscenes, and then outside of the cutscenes, the characters go back to not speaking, and it's just text you have to read. And it's like, dude, especially at $70, like, why can't we have voice actors record dialogue?
Because it doesn't fucking need it, and it would just be a waste of resources. Like, is anyone really up in their feelings over the fact that Tears of the Kingdom doesn't have voice acting for every line of dialogue? Like, that's not a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely asking that. But I know I sure as hell don't care. Honest to God, I would rather there just be no voice acting at all in either of these games, because I don't think there's a single good voice actor in either of them. There's something about them all, both the way they're acted and the way they sound, like from how they're recorded, that just seems so artificial. I don't really know how to describe it, honestly, but then again, I do kind of get that they needed voice actors for like the memories in these games, because it would be kind of weird if the memories were just a slideshow of like screenshots from the cutscenes with text on them instead of like actual cutscenes that are voice acted and shit. But for me, at least, everything else, don't even bother voice acting it. It's just a fucking waste of time, because again, there isn't a single good voice actor in any of these games. I'm sorry. Right?
But still, you got this game over here that's pushing the boundaries right now currently of what games can look like, because I think Burning Shores for me is the best looking game I've played on these next generation consoles so far. It's the best looking game I've played ever, honestly, as of right now. And it's doing all these other things, so I can justify the $70 for that.
How the hell can you justify the $70 for Forbidden West? What the fuck? No, because Horizon Zero Dawn did all that same shit that Forbidden West did first without being $70 at launch. Just like with the people defending Tears of the Kingdom being $70. Breath of the Wild has done all of the shit Tears of the Kingdom is doing without being $70 first. Once again, there is no fucking excuse.
Even though Burning Shores wasn't $70. But for Tears of the Kingdom, for $70, man, like, there's just, I need that extra shit, right? I don't care if it's a Nintendo thing where we have to fucking click through dialogue, but these motherfuckers, let them speak. Let them actually fucking speak.
No, because you were just talking about how you were fine with Forbidden West barely innovating on Zero Dawn and being charged $70 for it, yet it's a problem here with Tears of the Kingdom? No, that's not how this shit works.
We also need to, we really honestly need to fix our system of reviewing games, right? Because we have lots of issues with this system of reviewing games. First of all, like I said in my last live stream, I think that we need to have the equivalent of weight classes for reviewing games. Because a little, AA indie game that costs $10 that may, be a good or fun game that'll get a 9 out of 10. I'm sorry, there is no fucking reality where that game is better than God of War Ragnarok. Right? Like, people want to say, oh, Vampire Survivor, oh, fucking, it's better than God of War Ragnarok. And I'm like, are you fucking smoking crack?
See, I think we just need to get rid of review scores in general. There is no world where you can describe an entire experience and how many people will like it with a fucking number of all things. Like, for example, Elden Ring, it has 10s across the board. For what it's trying to be, yeah, I'd say Elden Ring achieves what it's going for really well. Which, if that's what you're giving it score for, yeah, Elden Ring is very much a 10 out of 10. However, a lot of people aren't going to like Elden Ring because it's too hard for them, so it makes it kind of hard to recommend. Do you get where I'm coming from here? Forza Horizon 5 got really good reviews, yet I didn't like it because I just don't like racing games. Reviewing a game or even a movie and trying to help people decide whether they're going to like it or not is so much more in depth than a fucking number, and I don't know why the hell people look at Metacritic like it's the fucking godsend of game reviews. I think reviews should just be, do you recommend it or do you not recommend it, and then explaining why and what types of people specifically you'd recommend it to. I don't think it's that hard. All that aside though, Hotline Miami 2 is better than God of War Ragnarok, no fucking questions asked.
It's laughable how Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom make every single game world on Xbox and PS5 look. Are you saying that it's making those game worlds look bad? Because I think you're fucking high if you think that, bro. Ghost of Tsushima's world shits on Breath of the Wild's.
Oh my god, that's not what he was talking about. He's talking about the secrets to find and how well implemented they are into the game's world, with how common they are and all that other shit. Not everything is about graphics or even art style. It's if what's in the world is fun to do. Like, don't get me wrong, Ghost of Tsushima, also a great game, fun as hell, probably the most refined version of the Ubisoft open world formula. However, again, like with Horizon and Spider-Man and all the other games that follow this formula, nothing is hidden from you. They tell you all this shit and hold your hand the entire time because there aren't any big visual cues in the world itself that make you want to go to places, and the worlds just end up looking really pretty but also really fucking mid and forgettable. With Breath of the Wild, I remember where shit is even 6 years after playing that game. I can tell you the quickest way to get off the Great Plateau, how to find the guy with the weird monster obsession, and how to get through the forest where the Master Sword is. Horizon Forbidden West, I played that shit like a little over a year ago, and honest to god, I don't remember shit. All I remember is that it looked really pretty. This is what people mean when they say that Breath of the Wild, Tears, and Elden Ring have phenomenal worlds. While they might not be the most alive, they do have actual interesting, memorable shit going on in them. Like in Breath of the Wild, I think I just swallowed a fucking bug. Like in Breath of the Wild, everyone who played it remembers their first interaction with a Yiga clan member, where they were just walking along the path one day and they talked to an NPC and oh my god, it's a fucking ninja trying to kill me. Shit was funny as fuck. So yeah, I'm ending this shit here so I can go back to playing Tears of the Kingdom while I'm baked as fuck, and hopefully you're playing it while you're watching this video too. So make sure to like, subscribe, join my Discord, follow my Twitter. If you really liked the video, you can help out my channel a lot by becoming a member. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.
What are you going to do?